Hey guys, welcome to Birds of a Feather. Live on A2DRadio.com from the Real Talk Studios. I'm fumbling like the birds this week, guys. From the Real Talk Studios, Chucks and Chrome with Ryan Brodo on the ones and twos. We are brought to you by Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours, GibsonMayer.com. Also by Specialized Physical Therapy. You can find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton, New Jersey. Also find them on the web at SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. Our Scanzano Sports poll question of the week. Which of these has the most graphic scene? Irreversible, Last House on the Left, Straw Dogs, or Saints versus Eagles? Guys, it was a massacre this week. And I know we got on. I know we talked last week and we said this might be 62-17. I think we were kind of half kidding. I think maybe we weren't. Maybe in our heart of hearts we knew this was going to happen. I'll be honest. I felt like we were going to get crushed, and then I don't know why the day of the game I woke up, and even on Agree to Disagree, I chimed in. It was Wilson and I believe Greg were on. And I put in, I don't know why, guys, but I'm feeling positive today. I feel like this could be a lot better game than we expected. I kind of felt like they could pull it out. Yeah, I could not have been more wrong on that call.
I thought they would cover too, so you're not alone.
That was ugly.
I
mean, there's a lot to take apart from this game and talk about. I won't even lie to the fam. I turned it off towards the second half of the third quarter. I couldn't do it anymore. It was brutal. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I mean, easily Carson's worst game as a pro.
Yep.
And that's not something I expect to be a carryover, but there's a lot that he can take. He can sit back this week and break down and see where his faults were. The defense, terrible. The offense, terrible. I don't even know where to start. I don't know where to start. I mean, for me, the graphic scene was Saints and Eagles because at least I can make it through a scary movie. I couldn't even make it through this game. It was ugly. I mean, and listen, I love Malcolm Jenkins, but I don't want to hear people crying about teams that put the gas pedal to the ground from start to finish.
Yeah, I didn't agree with him there.
This team all season hasn't done enough of that. And when we look at the teams like the Patriots, who year in and year out, they win. That's what they do. They go out and they make sure that the game is put away and put away handily. And they never take any plays off. And I've seen too much of this team this year playing too conservatively in the second half, particularly in the second and third quarters are really where they struggle a lot. Or even, the first 5 to 8 minutes of the first quarter, slow out of the gates. But I've seen too much. We've seen 2 17-point leads blown this year where this team just doesn't have the killer instinct. I will never, ever, ever knock a team for absolutely going for the jugular and putting a team away. We saw Pittsburgh do it.
We did it last year.
We did it last year to teams. And we deserved it. Listen, you come out and you play that way, I'm speechless. We deserved every bit of that this week.
I'm with you on disagreeing with what Malcolm said about running up the score. I don't have an issue him flipping off his old coach. Like, in the heat of the moment, you're gonna flip him off. I don't. That's fine. I also didn't mind his quote today about him calling out the demeanor of the team because he was absolutely right. It was atrocious. Like the whole demeanor, you can tell that the whole team quit. And I'm going to give Malcolm the benefit of the doubt that he kept playing. Did he play well that game? No, he didn't play well, but I didn't see a lack of effort from Malcolm himself. So for that quote specifically, I'm on his side. I think it's a gut check for everyone. You got to keep fighting. But I don't agree with him being angry that the Saints ran up the score. Like it's National Football League. If you're gonna get butthurt because you're getting blown out, then just go home.
Listen, if you're gonna come out and play like a Pee Wee football team against an NFL juggernaut, one of the best teams in the NFL, then that's what you deserve. You deserve every bit of it.
Exactly. I have no problem with it.
Now, A2D put up a post today, and it was essentially kind of comparing, in a way, Brian Dawkins and Malcolm Jenkins. And I saw some people got a little bit hot about it because everybody gets sensitive whenever it comes to one of these iconic players like a Brian Dawkins. How dare you put somebody in that conversation? Nobody's saying that Malcolm Jenkins is a Brian Dawkins. But as far as what he said about the team, I'm 1,000% for that.
Yep.
You need guys to be leaders in the locker room. You need guys to hold everybody accountable, including themselves. And I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of player that Brian Dawkins was. Clearly, more often than not, he had great games. Not every single game he ever played, but he always was a guy who went out there and played 100%. You never got a half-assed version of Brian Dawkins on the field. And then when it came to leadership and holding guys accountable, that's what you get with Malcolm Jenkins. We haven't had a guy with that kind of a voice in the locker room. That was the comparison, is that you have a guy who is passionate enough, who will come out. He'll put the team on blast when they fail, and he'll be the first guy to stand out and do that. And I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that kind of leadership. We don't have enough of that, I don't think, on this team. You don't see Fletcher Cox standing out there, and I love Fletcher, but let's be real. How much of a you need to have guys who are going to be vocal leaders.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved. Last year, you started to see a little bit with guys like Jalen Mills, who were in the middle of the huddle and giving that pregame speech and hyping everybody up. You don't see any of that anymore except from Malcolm Jenkins. So, I think people kind of took it too literal.
Yeah.
In that conversation. I wanted to make sure we brought that up because I knew we were going to talk about Malcolm. I think people took it too literal that, he's the guy now since Brian Dawkins. No, we're not quite saying that. But when you talk about a guy who's a vocal leader, a guy who goes out there and puts max effort out there, a veteran presence, yes, he's the closest we've had since him. And I think he's done a pretty damn good job. We got a Super Bowl with him being our safety and our defensive leader. Yeah,
and he's someone that I think we could all say ever since Dawkins left, that one hole in the secondary, or not even the secondary, the whole defense was safety. We kept saying, who's going to be that leader back there at the safety position? We drafted guys like, I can't even remember. Earl Wolf, remember Earl Wolf?
Mm-hmm.
You remember the guy from Temple? There was a guy from Temple that we drafted in the second round. There were a bunch of guys that we all thought, okay, they can be the next guy. It turned out to be Malcolm Jenkins, and he's come in, been an absolute leader. He's not like an elite level player, but he's very, very, very good. And he's consistent. He's versatile. So I get the comparison. Like, I'm not saying that he's a Hall of Famer, but I can understand, like, right now so far he's the closest thing we have to Brian Dawkins.
I'll say this about Malcolm Jenkins. He knows how to tackle in the secondary.
Yeah.
We ain't got a lot of guys on this team that know how to do that.
Yeah. He's stayed healthy.
He's been healthy.
He's with everyone in the secondary going down, the mainstay is Malcolm. So, I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
And he's one of those guys, like, people forget when we acquired Malcolm Jenkins, I believe that was cast as the worst free agent
by ESPN
signing of that year.
And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
People were clamoring for what's the guy, Jairus Byrd, who went to the Saints and was the replacement for Malcolm because he left the Saints. And look how that turned out for them. He was nothing.
And, oh, by the way, this guy's won 2 Super Bowls.
Yes.
2 Super Bowls. Not one, 2.
2 of them.
So, I mean, don't take it too literal when you see those kinds of posts, but there's a definite comparison there in a sense of what they do bring to the defense.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of swaying back off of that, I mean, tell me what you take away from this game, positive, negative. I don't really know what to take away from it because it was an atrocity, an absolute embarrassment.
This, to me, and this is tough because, like, ever since last week, I've been, like, kind of emotionally checked out in terms of, like, not that I don't care about the Eagles, more of the, like, I'm so exhausted. Like, I'm exhausted watching this team and watching the bad coaching, the bad performances and everything. And it was worse this week. To me, what I saw was a team that felt like their season went down the drain last week when they lost to the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
And then they talked up a good game, but then their body language this week against the Saints told everyone that they knew they were outplayed. They're going to be outplayed. They were out of their league, and then they had no shot. Like the body language, there was no energy, nothing. And then you have bad coaching. I know that. I think there's one guy commented on Facebook, Eric Tamalonis. I'm probably butchered that, but I'm sorry. He says, "What do you guys see as the whole problem is?" And it's hard to point fingers at one thing. There are numerous things as to why the Eagles are this bad. Numerous. And the one obvious thing is injuries. But if I had to start somewhere, I'd say coaching. Because it goes even before the injuries occurred and everything, and we were this banged up, there was bad coaching, which led to certain losses that shouldn't have happened. You point out to the lack of creativity on offense now with Mike Groh in there and not Frank Reich, which we will get back to in a little bit. And then, so that's one thing. And then the other side of the ball, Jim Schwartz is still as stubborn as ever. Like Sean Payton in his press conference, you know what he said? He said he'd never seen the Eagles defense play this much man coverage, which to me makes no sense. Why would Schwartz play man coverage when he knows he's this banged up in the secondary? You got your backups are getting hurt now. Backups in there.
Backups are getting hurt.
Oh my God! So you're going to play majority man coverage? That makes no sense. I don't understand what Schwartz is doing, which is why, like, to me, I'm pointing at coaching and I'm pointing at the coordinators, and I honestly think that at the end of the season, both coordinators need to be out of here. And I hope, like, I keep reminding myself or keep asking myself, is that me overreacting? Am I overreacting because we did just win a Super Bowl? I hope I'm not overreacting. But the more I look at it, they're just not. With Schwartz, yeah, we won a Super Bowl with him as the defensive coordinator. But when I think about it, the issues that he has right now that are being magnified are the same issues he had last season. But the thing is, we had an offense to mask those issues last season. So when the offense kind of lacks, he doesn't. Those flaws that he has get magnified, get pulled on 1,000-fold. Where you're like, okay, it's much worse than we thought. So just with Schwartz, his stubbornness and his idiotic decisions with his scheme are so frustrating. I don't see him lasting this offseason. I think both coordinators are going. So I would start there. Then obviously the injuries. Wentz has struggled with some. I posted an article from my boy Michael Kist, who did a good breakdown on BleedingGreenNation.com of what Wentz has struggled with the past few weeks, and that's his post-snap mental processing and not seeing certain defenders and certain reads. And, so it's a bunch of different things. And no way am I blaming Wentz. Okay, I don't want anyone to get that misconstrued. I'm not saying Wentz isn't the guy or that he should be benched or that he's the main reason why we suck. Not at all. I'm just saying, like, he still has his flaws. That's one of them. And a lot of this team there's a lot of things piled up.
I do want to say real quick, because I forgot to mention at the top of the show, if for some reason Facebook is weird, because there's some issues with Facebook earlier, we are live on YouTube as well and on Instagram and Periscope. So if for whatever reason you have an issue with your Facebook feed, just hop over there. It seems to be working fine now, but I forgot to mention at the top.
Yeah, Facebook's down like globally right now.
I was disgusted with this game, so I kind of just went right into let's get it out of our system.
While you guys brought up Wentz, I wanted to bring up there's a ton of comments over on YouTube, but there's one from Basic Entertainment. He says Wentz is overrated. 2017 was a fluke. And then people were challenging him on that. They disagree with him. And then he said Carson didn't do anything on Sunday. He's not that good, and he's not clutch. What do you say to the guys, not just Basic Entertainment, because it's one thing if he's the only one saying it or there's a small group, but every single week there's a growing group that are starting to say this. What do you say to those people that have kind of changed their tune on Wentz just because of this run?
Do you want to go first, and I'll follow up?
Well, all right. So I'm not going to say that Carson's not clutch, but what I will validate for that is we have not seen him show enough of that or really much of that. And really this year is the first time that you've really had to see that. Now, I would argue his rookie year, a lot of those games that we were in were because of the play of Carson Wentz.
Do you remember the Ravens game?
What's that?
You remember the Ravens game? Yeah.
I mean, Carson, that rookie year that with Carson was, for all intents and purposes, it could have gone a lot worse than it did. And I think that Carson did step up, and Carson showed that he has the ability to lead the team, to close out games, and to basically carry the haul and get the team over across the finish line. Now, last year, they were able to run up the score quite a bit. I mean, the offense was absolutely dynamic, and again, we'll get into it. Maybe a lot of that's Frank Reich. We don't know. But it's been a tough year this year, and I think that Carson is, he's going to take his lumps. You look at guys like Aaron Rodgers. There's guys who had struggles early in the first few years of their career.
Yep.
But you have to, and I believe that the true elite quarterbacks in this league have to struggle at some point in order to learn from that and to learn how to overcome adversity. Now, I will give a little bit of a nod to the fact that he needs to show us more in regards to the end of games. And, it's not just on Carson, though. I think a lot of it this season is play calling. And one of the things that we were talking about before we came on the air was the fact that for some reason, Mike Groh says it's difficult implementing Golden Tate into the offense. Now, some people will say, well, he looks a little lost in practice. That's something I've heard floated out there. So, they're basically putting on him. To me, this is a guy who is a veteran guy who has played in a number of different offenses, who has played in offenses, particularly in Seattle, that are very similar to this. If he's not clicking for one reason or another, that's a big coaching issue to me. And then I would give him the benefit of the doubt because I also turn around and then I look at guys who were on this team last year who look lost in the offense. What's the common denominator? Oh, by the way, we have a guy named Dallas Goedert who seems it's difficult to find a role for him in the offense other than blocking. So to me, there's a little bit of accountability on some of Carson's decision-making, but there's a lot to do with the coaching on this football team. And that's what I bring it down. Now, to say that 2017 and 2016, let's not forget the success he had his rookie year, were, an anomaly is completely ridiculous. You're looking at a couple of games this year where he has made mistakes, and there's nobody not acknowledging that. We're on this station, we hold the guys accountable who need to be held accountable. But to take a couple of games is an absolute ridiculous statement there. Now, you look at a guy like Dak, who had a phenomenal rookie year and really shit the bed up until, maybe his last one or two games? That's a whole different conversation. You're not talking about a guy that had a trend. You're talking about a guy who's had a couple of poor decision-making instances, and not all of them have been game-costly decisions, by the way. You're just talking about a guy who, he's still learning. He's developing. Make mistakes. How many times did we see Brett Favre throw interceptions? One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, who made poor decisions trying to do more than
interceptions.
Trying to do more with turn garbage into gold. How many times late in games trying to carry his team back? It happens.
Let me ask you guys a question. Back in 2016,
I was an MVP candidate last year, and up until the last 2 weeks, or even this week, even last week, I think his numbers were still up there. He was pacing better than he did last season.
So what I'll say...
Go ahead.
So what I'll say in basic entertainment, I hope you're listening, and I'm going to kind of refrain from doing my usual, blasting when I blast people, and just address you calmly and objectively. First of all,
I don't have it in me to be on fire.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not on fire. I've lost fire.
It's the holiday season.
It's the holiday season. Yeah.
We're thankful.
One, you're not. I understand where you're coming from. Like Chrome said, Wentz has his flaws, and he's still young. He's still learning a lot. But first of all, what Chrome said about a lot of these elite elite QBs like Aaron Rodgers, earlier in their career, they struggled. Like Aaron Rodgers wasn't Aaron Rodgers when his first 2 years in the league.
2 or 3 years,
he was a
yeah,
starter,
it took him a while.
and he was on the bench still for 3 years. I think it was 3 years for on the Green Bay's bench while waiting for Favre to leave. So it still is a process. You have to also consider the fact that.
Can I add to that real quick before we move to the next point?
Yeah,
that's a great point. A lot of these elite guys had the opportunity to sit behind other veteran quarterbacks and learn how to play. So they had 2 or 3 years where they sat behind a Brett Favre and got to learn the offense from a visual standpoint of just kind of sitting back and seeing somebody else run it. And then they had to still step in and then have their growing pains.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz came in immediately.
And was the guy.
Immediately. And this is a guy who came from a lot of high praise, but played in Division II school, and people said this could go really good one way or this could be really terrible another way and be completely overhyped. Carson came in immediately and has made an impact. He can't do it by himself. There's no quarterback in the league that can do it by themselves.
None.
You've seen Aaron Rodgers this year have his struggles.
Because he has nothing. Because he practically has nothing.
Only so much that the quarterback can do. When you are having issues with play calling, with injuries, the offensive line has been terrible on this team.
Yep.
And it's been banged up. Lane Johnson, absolutely terrible this year. Jason Peters, for the most part, I mean, we knew he was going to take a step back.
Yeah.
I agree with you when you said last week that Jason Peters. I'll take a 70% Jason Peters from normal over a guy like Big V.
But he hasn't been Jason
you
Peters,
have to also consider the fact that if a guy doesn't have anybody protecting him up front, he gets desperate. He has to do something to create plays to try to scramble around. I mean, he's getting sacked at a crazy rate this year compared to what he normally does.
Yeah.
So you have to take all these things into consideration.
Yeah.
So to me, making that kind of a statement is just either you're just a Carson hater and you want to hate on him, or you're just not taking everything into account.
Yeah.
God, I didn't mean to cut you
off,
off,
you're
but
fine.
I wanted to take –
It's
that was a great point about guys who – these elite quarterbacks got to sit behind other guys and learn for 1 or 2 or 3 years.
Exactly. No, you did. And see, that's a trend that just started a few years ago. If people remember – with quarterbacks, they used to never play their rookie season. Now it's the norm. You play your rookie quarterback, and you let them learn on the fly, which is fine. But you gotta also look deeper than just face value of what the stats and numbers say. And I know we got into it last week when I said, "Oh, I don't care about stats." And I need to correct myself. I care about stats, but I care more about what is beyond just the stats. And so you have to look at the context of what Carson has done his first couple of years. So he gets put in to an offense his first year when he wasn't declared the starter until the week of the season. Remember, Sam Bradford didn't get traded until like the week before week 1. So he had no reps in the preseason to be with the first team or anything. He came in right away. And the Eagles are 3-0? He had his struggles, and people were saying he regressed. But if you actually watched, Carson was doing so much by himself with nothing. And we always talked about that. So much with nothing, but people wanted to heap praise on Dak Prescott when he had Zeke Elliott to run behind. And then Dak Prescott gets Rookie of the Year.
And he still had a productive Des Bryant at that time.
Yes, and he still had a productive Des
Bryant. And Jason Witten.
Yep.
And one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line at that point in football.
So people want to take numbers and everything at face value, but don't want to look deeper. Now you go into last year, what happens? Wentz with a full offseason of preparation and a good talented roster actually behind him and good coaching, lights the NFL on fire in his second year. In his second year, he is lighting the NFL on fire. And I know we don't take much into account. We don't like when it comes to when it came to the NFL Network top 100 players ranking. But consider this. That's voted on by the players around the league. If the players themselves are willing to put Carson Wentz as the third best player in the league, that means something. That means everyone is seeing something in Wentz's ability that that is really, really, really special. It's not a fluke. There's something really there. Now, this year, he was recovering from his injury. He didn't get the full offseason of preparation. Again, just like his first year, no full offseason where he could be there in training camp with the first team, get those reps that are valuable. They are very important. So he came in dry week 3 and was pretty much right off the knee injury and came in and started, and he looked pretty good. He looked very good right off the bat, and we've been saying for weeks, Wentz's arm and accuracy has been better than it was last year. I really do believe that he focused on that, and I will stick to that argument. However, there's only so much Wentz can do because, one, the coach, the offensive coordinator, isn't the same. So now you have a lack of creativity, and you can see it. If you watch the Colts and Frank Reich, that is the Eagles' offense from last year. It literally is the Eagles' offense from last year. He took it to Indy. We don't have that. So Wentz what he's doing this year is he has to do so much on his own again. These drives, if you remember, look back on these scoring drives that the Eagles have. They are long drives. We had against Indy, against Carolina, these long sustaining drives where we're attacking short and intermediate plays areas of the field, and we take it from from our own 10-yard line, and we go right down. We go down the field, long sustaining drive, and that's why we led the league in time of possession, which is great. Long sustaining drive is great. However, when you don't have a legit running game, those long sustaining drives are very, very difficult to sustain week in, week out.
Yeah.
If you don't have an explosive playmaking on the outside or in the running game to hit those explosive plays, it's very difficult to put together, again, 12-play drives every single time. They're asking a lot of Wentz with a worse offensive scheme, a worse pass protection in front of him, and so a lot of it is crumbling.
And nowhere near the depth at running back, because you need the running game to open up the passing game. No Blunt,
no Ajayi. So you have your two
Sproles,
still. So you have your two workhorse backs from last year who made an absolute difference in that playoff run, or in the regular season and the playoff run. They're not here anymore. So what running game did we have in the beginning to start off the season up to now to support Wentz? We had none. Dak has Ezekiel Elliott, who is elite. So it's not a fluke. It 100% isn't a fluke. It's a factor of a lot of things that goes down to why Wentz is struggling.
Listen, you can point to last year we had Torrey Smith. You know, a lot of great quarterbacks have different skilled passing options and whatnot. You have a guy that can stretch the field. We don't have that this year. Mike Wallace got hurt.
Out, yep.
You have, he has his blanket in Zach Ertz, which is great. They could have another one in Dallas Goedert, which to me falls on the coordinator and the head coach for not figuring out a way to make this guy more of a pivotal part of the offense. But you're looking at, I don't want to say Nelson's regressed, but Nelson hasn't moved forward. I might entertain the idea that he's regressed a little bit. He started out hot this year, but he's gotten real quiet. And I don't know if that's on him, if it's on the coaching, if it's on both. But he hasn't been the reliable option that he had from last year. So you're talking about an offensive line that's not living up to, the skill level that they should really be at. I mean, even with Peters being knocked down a peg from the injury, Lane Johnson, before he got hurt, there's no excuse for the season that he's been having up to this point.
Absolutely.
And Kelsey's been pretty good, but Kelsey's been banged up. You're having a lot of issues up front, which then you don't have your cowbell running back. You're running two guys out there that are undrafted that just came into the league this year and last year.
Yeah. And
Wendell Smallwood, who got the fourth back option this year.
Yeah.
By default, just for having been here. Now, I'm not saying that Adams hasn't had his moments. I've seen the flashes. I definitely think there's a spot for him on this team. I think Wendell Smallwood, for the most part, up until the last couple weeks, played pretty well. He became somewhat of a reliable option. Corey Clement's been an absolute disappointment, in my opinion. big time. He's made no progress since last year.
Yep.
But you don't have a legitimate running back. You don't have a deep threat to stretch the field. You have one of your slot receivers who's regressed this year.
It's a lot of stuff.
You have Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz. That's the only two reliable guys. And even with Alshon Jeffrey, if it's not clicking on some of those other points, like with a Nelson and not having a reliable deep threat and not having a running back to pace the passing game, he's had time. He's starting to get a little bit quiet. It's Zach Ertz. It's a two-man game of Carson Wentz and Zach Ertz for the most part. And you know who else? Jordan Matthews. And I have no problem saying that because in the role that he's in, and for everybody that shit on the Jordan Matthews signing, he's been everything that we said he would be, which is a fourth receiver. He hasn't been dropping balls. He's made big catches when they've needed them, and he has played very well in his role. So outside of those guys who, in my opinion, have played their role, everybody else has fallen to the wayside this year.
Yeah.
That's not on Carson. Carson can't play every position on the field. Now, I'm not saying Carson hasn't made poor decisions in times where he has had protection.
Yeah.
Of course he has.
He has.
That interception against Dallas was
that was
terrible.
That was
terrible.
That was all him.
And he didn't have a great game this week. We acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to have the best game ever.
Yep.
But to say that it's all a fluke is just it's insane to me.
Oh, and also
you have to be
defense.
Either you're a Carson hater or you have him in fantasy football and he's not putting the points up that you wanted this year.
And the defense hasn't created turnovers, so there are no short fields with which to work with. I mean, you have the
defense isn't creating turnovers. To me, a lot of it is on Schwartz, but I put a lot of that on Groh as well because the defense is constantly on the field, and they look exhausted half the game because they're constantly on the field because there's no creativity on the offense.
Exactly.
I thought Ryan was going to say something. I thought he had his question.
Yeah.
The only thing I had was the fact that this offense, all of a sudden, and it's because of this offensive coordinator, is extremely predictable. How can we be an extremely predictable offense with all of these weapons and this great quarterback?
No Reich.
And Charles, I'm so happy you brought up the offensive line because my question that I was going to ask earlier is, remember his rookie season, Wentz's rookie season? He was playing so great, and then something big changed. What was that big change?
Lane Johnson was suspended.
And what happened to the offensive line? It went what?
Crumbling down.
Okay, so therefore he went crumbling down because he had to do everything himself. That's always been my number one critique of him. And it's a good problem to have in most scenarios where the guy is going to do too much. He's going to try and do too much. Instead of like a Cam Newton or somebody that's going to crumble and do too little.
Doing too much, yes.
So
correct.
That's why I keep bringing up 2016 because it is 2016.
Yeah.
Because what has happened to this offensive line every single game?
Crumbled.
Therefore, he's going to have less time. And, oh, by the way, he didn't have training camp or a preseason.
Yes. Yep. It's 26. Yeah.
The only guy.
And dude, that's not excuses. That's facts.
That's
the
facts.
only man.
That's real talk.
Yeah.
Forget about offense. I can make the argument there's only one man on this, or one player on this entire team, offense and defense, that did not. You can make an argument that did not regress. And Alshon's kind of like an honorable mention because he has taken a step back, but it's not all of his fault. Okay. It's Zach Ertz. He's the only man that's gone forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody else has gone back, and that's because of these coordinators.
See,
because you can't get better if you're not taught the way to get better.
Yes.
And I would throw Alshon into that because looking at last year and all the negativity that kind of came around of, is this guy a true number one? And listen, him and Carson getting on the same page took a little while. He came into this year, it was a lot of like when he comes back, he's got that contract extension now. He's got to show it. And up until the last week or two, which the whole offense has taken a shit the last 2 weeks, he has played very, very well. He immediately came in and proved that he is a reliable number one.
Yes.
He makes big catches, big plays, gets open. I would throw him in and say, yes, he has taken that step forward because I would say he solidified the number one wide receiver tag on himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying he's the best number one wide receiver in the league, but he has validated that he is a legitimate number one wide receiver.
That's true.
So I would put those two in. And, again, I mean, I think Adams has been pretty good for the small sample size we've had.
Give him more carries. That's fine.
I think give him carries and see what you got the rest of the year.
Yeah.
That's the positives I have as far as the offense overall for the year. I don't really have anything else
There's not a lot
that I look at.
There isn't a lot, and it's sad. Like
Goddard
Yeah.
should be, but they're not making an effort to make him part of the offense
Yes.
other than blocking.
they're not.
Other
Oh
than
my
blocking.
God.
He's
Yes.
essentially they're using him as another pass protector,
He's Selleck.
and that's it. He's Brent Selleck. He's taken Brent Selleck's role
Because
this
of
year.
how bad this offensive line is, they have to bring somebody back, and it can't be Goddard.
Yeah.
Hopefully when Richard Rodgers comes back, if he does,
He's
he fills that role.
I
He
think
got
he
put
was,
on
he
IR.
was he did he?
yeah,
What?
put in IR.
I thought.
Oh, Richard Rodgers. I thought you said Perkins.
No.
No,
I was
no,
going to
no,
say
no,
they
no.
Richard Rodgers
activated
is
him.
they activated.
They
Richard
activated
Rodgers,
him.
yeah.
he
Sorry.
just has to make the active roster.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Correct.
You're going to have to read Facebook because mine's
Yeah.
not updating at all.
So let's see.
We're going to get to the
We're
fam
gonna
over on
get- yeah.
Facebook, then we'll hop over to some of the YouTube comments.
So Tom Arnone says, "What a poll! It's definitely the Birds." Andy Ritter says, "What's up, boys? What in the hell happened to this team?" Mike Parker says,
Mike Groh and Jim Schwartz.
"Yep."
That's my answer.
Mike Parker says, "Besides the turkey, what's your favorite Thanksgiving dish or dessert?" We will touch on that on our Thanksgiving segment in the second
Yes.
half.
So we actually
Yes.
have a
We have
Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
segment
Mm-hmm.
because we want to feel positive of this
Yes.
week, guys.
Just saw that for the first time, and I'm literally right in front of my face, and I just saw it.
We want to be positive this week
It
about
literally
that.
just says
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Vespi says, "Hey yo, sorry to bother you at work. I haven't seen any of those movies. The most graphic thing I've seen was Alex Smith's injury.
Dude.
Yeah, I know that was bad." And he says, "I was going to say another movie, but I don't want to make the fam sick."
That Alex Smith injury is insane, by the way. So did you see all
the
the
parallels from Theismann? Yeah.
So the parallels, just in case you missed this, guys. So Joe Theismann was in the crowd for this game. It was the 33rd anniversary since the iconic injury that Joe Theismann suffered. So a couple of the parallels were it's 33 years to the day. Theismann's there, same final score of 23-21. Both injuries took place on the 40-yard line, and I don't know if you guys saw this. Both men were injured by the only two three-time Defensive Player of the Year in the history of the game. How
So
crazy is that?
crazy.
Like, I'll tell you what, man.
That is crazy. Illuminati.
I'm not a guy who hates on Alex Smith. I think Alex Smith, when he has talent around him and an actual decent offensive scheme, I think he's a very good quarterback. And I know he plays for Washington. And to me, you take the jerseys off, you never want to see something like that happen to a guy. I mean, for all intents and purposes, this guy's career might be over.
You don't want to see that.
That was one of the most difficult injuries in any sport that I've watched. And I'm not a squeamish guy. I mean, I was EMT trained. I've seen some crazy shit. But, man, when I watched that, my buddy was looking at it. We didn't see it live. We saw, the clip on Twitter, and I can hear him going, "Oh, no. Oh, no." So I looked at it. I was like, oh, no. I was vocally out loud about it. It was nasty.
Yeah.
And I think that we all would agree, and Alex Smith is one of those really good guys, and as far as people in the game of football.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish Alex Smith, hopefully a speedy recovery, not even just to get on the field. I mean, that's the kind of thing that can affect you for the rest of your life, those kind of injuries. So I hope that he has a nice speedy recovery. That was as nasty as it gets, and I mean, it's a real shame.
It is a shame, and you never want to see anything like that happen. I mean,
No.
for all of his flaws, he's still a starting caliber quarterback, and you hate to see that.
Dude, he's
You
one of
just
the
really
good
hate to see
guys
that.
in the
He's a
game. He
good
really
guy,
is.
yeah.
He's one. When people talk about Alex Smith and talk about what a stand-up class act the dude is,
Yep.
it's terrible.
It was tough. Eric Tomalonis, which is the guy I mentioned earlier, he says, "Big man flying with the bird hoodie."
My man.
Mike Brown, in reply to Andy, says, "Frank Reich went to Indy, and offense can't score to make up for the crappy defense anymore." Then Mike Smith says Mike Groh probably is the issue.
I mean, the thing was, the defense played well, the first 10 or 12 games of last year. and then the wheels started to fall off, and they've never been put back on. Like, that's the thing. You just started to see the cracks, but the offense was so damn good.
The defense had, like, toward the end of the year after Wentz went down, I'm thinking the Raiders game. I'm thinking the Vikings game.
They played well in the Raiders game.
The Falcons game, I think. So the two playoff games at home, they played well. And then the Raiders game, too, on Christmas.
Other than that, the wheels fell off in every other game.
Yeah. So, Greg says, "What's up, fam? I don't get the other references, but that game was brutal. My theory from last week doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. Huh? LOL. Hashtag fired Doug. You are so on the fired Doug thing. It's not going to happen. But, geez, no one watches movies. I've seen 2 of these movies.
I've only heard of one of them.
They're
like scary movies or horror movies or something, Greg, with graphic scenes.
Graphic scenes, yeah. I'll just leave it at that. Christopher S. says, family, do you guys still think 11 can win the bowl for, or then he rewords it, do you think he can win us a Super Bowl in the future?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Deion Brown.
It's not going to be this year.
Yes.
Might not be next year.
Yeah. Well, it could be next year.
So.
Could be next year.
One day.
Deion Brown says, what's good, guys? That Saints loss didn't hurt as much as that Dallas loss. We could have buried them with that win, but again, week after week, we as a team have killed ourselves. And besides Jenkins, we have a bunch of Dunkin' Donut employees playing DB for us right now. Hey, Deion, you want to suit up and we can go play for them?
Dude,
let's do it, Deion.
What's so disappointing about it, too, is this is 2 games out of the bye week.
I know.
2 games out of the bye week.
I honestly think if we had beaten the Cowboys, the game against the Saints would have been different. Like, not in terms of win or loss, but the way they played, I honestly feel like it would have been a closer game than what it was.
And that's a fair point. It's possible. But I agree with what you guys said earlier, that they lost that Cowboys game, and they looked like they gave up.
Yeah.
It looked like a team that quits. And I'll tell you what, I love my Eagles, and I love all my pro teams. I got no tolerance for guys that quit.
Yeah, don't quit.
And that was what
That's
it looked
bullshit.
like. It looked like a team that just quit.
Yeah. Pardon my French, but it's utter bullshit.
Yeah.
So, you gotta do better than that. Gotta do better than that. Anything on YouTube?
Yeah,
that
it's
you saw?
fine. Here, I'll give you the best ofs.
Yeah,
Okay?
give us the
So a
best
bunch of people chiming in saying hello. We got Bryce Blackwell, David Rosca, who was on an ultimate high after that thriller last night of a game.
Yo, that was
That's
a great
awesome.
game.
That was-
We'll talk about that game. That
Yeah.
was. I'll tell you what.
Woo!
If you didn't watch that game last night, and I didn't catch it from the beginning, but I watched the second half, that was something special to watch.
By the
Yeah.
way,
I mean,
this
if you
shirt-
love defense, you didn't love the game, but
this-
it was something special
This
to watch.
shirt is not an MJ Jumpman shirt. This is Kareem Hunt from his official page. This is Big Dreams. Kareem Hunt
We've been
doing
over this
his
before.
What a
doing
crumb.
his hurdle. So I just got it earlier this week, so I was like, I need to wear this.
What a crumb.
So,
Might as
yeah.
well do an ad read
Kareem
for that
Hunt.
one, too.
Kareem Hunt, baby.
We had a Laker crumb. Now we got a Kansas City crumb over here.
Kareem Hunt
KareemHunt.com.
crumb. Not Kansas City, just Kareem Hunt.
SJM86 says, what's up, fam? I am no longer upset, just plain disgusted. So many issues, just
Yeah.
blah. Then Bryce Blackwell, he had said this last night. He says a lot of change needs to come. He says we have to change the offensive and defensive coordinators, draft
Yes.
strong with our 10 picks, with
Yes.
the roster turnover. 2019 will be a bounce back if they do one of the 7 things he just said. It's a long road, but, I mean, listen. We both agree that if not both, one of the coordinators will be fired. We all agree with that, correct?
Yes.
Not should, but will, because should is
At least
much
will,
different
yes.
than
yes.
will.
I think that I think Schwartz is almost all but a certainty. I
See,
have a
disagree.
feeling.
I think it's Grow.
I think it's absolutely grow,
it's Grow.
because I think they're going to run with the excuses on the defense that they were banged up.
Yes.
And plus, he
That's
does
a
have
fair
the
Which
Super
I don't
Bowl.
agree with.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which
Again,
we don't agree
should
with,
is
yeah.
much different than
Yep,
will. I
yep.
think should be both.
Yeah.
But will,
That's a fair point.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it will be Grow.
In my head, Schwartz is already gone, though. So, I mean, that's me.
Yeah.
I think regardless of the injuries, they haven't played well all season.
Yeah.
And before the injuries the injury bug really hit big. And to
Yeah.
me, that's not – you're not talking about, okay, we're nicked up here and here. You look at guys who like Jalen Mills, who when he was on the field regressed. Rasul Douglas has been an absolute non-factor to anything. You look at
the constant
you
third
look
and
at
fourth and longs.
for everything with Ronald Darby this year, and he had good games, but for all the hype that came in at how good he looked, he was not as
Inconsistent.
strong, inconsistent.
Yep.
Sidney Jones has been, in my opinion, when he's actually been on the field, has been inconsistent as well. There's been Fletcher Cox is not having a good year. They can point to some of the injuries, but this shit was happening before a lot of the injuries happened. And that's why, to me, I'm looking at it. If they sit down and look at it, Schwartz needs to go. It goes back to last season.
That points to another thing. Like, using the use of personnel is a question mark since the offseason. Like, I do not understand why they started off and put Sidney Jones in the slot. He never played slot. Now, he was playing very well before he got hurt. He was playing very well, but that's besides the point. You have a Jalen Mills who's struggling, and you're going to choose to be loyal to him instead of put your second-round high-potential player who was playing well. You're not going to move him to the outside when he's clearly the most consistent corner that they had the first few weeks of the season. That's questionable. And then you're going to put Avonte Maddox, again, I've said it numerous times, but I need to say it again. You're going to put Avonte Maddox, a slot corner for the first time, who was being grouped as a slot corner, was an outside corner his whole college career. You're going to put him at safety? And then you have your third-round pick, Rasul Douglas, who is waiting in the wings. He's not going to sniff the field, not until everyone gets hurt. And you're going to pick up guys like McDougal, Bosby, LeBlanc, and play them before Rasul Douglas? Like, that is questionable personnel usage. It's stubbornness. And, again, like I just said, the third and fourth and longs that they constantly give up, that's inexcusable.
Zill Jones says hello. He was talking about how bad we got beat on Sunday. FPA Tros, long listener of A2D. We usually don't catch him in the live chat. He says, yeah, we're done. Let's accept it. It's not happening this year. SJM also says Sunday was an abomination. Coach Reich and Flip not being here this year has turned on to be a much larger issue. Mike Rowe appears clueless. Well,
I don't think Flip as much, but definitely Frank Reich. I'll say it has been a long time since I've turned a football game off, an Eagles football game, and I couldn't even make it to the fourth quarter. So I absolutely agree with that. It was a disgrace.
Now, tell me if you guys share this fear with FPA Tros, because I don't think this is people could say this is an overreaction, but after these two games, I think the mindset's fair. He says, my worst fear is that the Eagles are quickly going to go back to the way they always were, a mediocre team behind a mediocre organization.
It's a fear, obviously. Like you, as a fan of football, with how much the parity is year in and year out, that's a fear you always have to have, that your team is not going to be anything, just be mediocre. But I still wouldn't go that far and say that is likely, because I still think that Howie Roseman, and there was a post about the A2D had about like Howie Roseman only had like a few starters in his past few drafts, and I called A2D out and said that's actually bogus. But I am critical of his 2017 draft. I am, and you can be critical of that. I said it 2 weeks ago, very critical of a 2017 draft, but his other ones have been fine. And it's too early to talk about 2018, and I still have faith that he has set himself up with numerous draft assets this coming draft. I think that was the plan all along, and I think that this upcoming draft will tell a lot. Well, if they are successful with it, that'll set us up for another long run at being a contender. And I think that if they get healthy and they fix their issues at coordinator, and they find some capable coordinators, we're right back in it next year.
I don't think – all right, so I'm looking at the question a little bit there. I'm not even getting into drafting and this and that. I'm just taking the question at face value. Is this team going to be a mediocre team? It's possible. Yep. Any team can be a mediocre team. We've had years where the Packers, even with Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, even with the Saints, they missed the playoffs. They were a mediocre team those years.
I'm glad you bring up the Saints.
It's an absolute possibility. That being said, do I think this organization is going to be mediocre? Absolutely not. What they have always shown us, from the Andy Reid era to even the Chip Kelly era, even though they kind of tried to go with a whole different direction and had that experiment, they were always willing to try to do something different and try to improve, including this year where they went out and got a Golden Tate. Now, it hasn't worked out at this point, but this team has always gone out and had the mind frame to go out and try to improve. Even the year that they went and drafted Carson, they didn't go into full rebuild mode.
Yeah.
They went out, they gave up some assets knowing that you have to build the team around a franchise quarterback, but they didn't dismantle the team. They made certain sacrifices that needed to be done, and then were able to quickly build around him. So what did they do when they gave up those draft assets? They were willing to go out and spend money and be creative to bring talent to surround him. So do I believe that this organization is going to be mediocre? It's been a long time since the organization's been mediocre. I don't believe Jeffrey Lurie will allow them to be a mediocre organization.
Great point.
So if I'm looking at it from that kind of a face value, not even necessarily the X's and O's of drafts and whatnot, to me, there's always going to be a max effort to try to put a winning team on the field. To me, a mediocre organization is the Cleveland Browns.
Cincinnati Bengals.
The Cincinnati Bengals. These teams who every year go out and make terrible personnel decisions. They don't put the right people in place. They for lack of a better, they'll tank years because they have nothing there. They'll trade their assets away. You never see that with this team. It's been a long time since you've seen an Eagles team
That's a great
that has
point.
done that.
That's a very good point.
I have a question for you, Chuck. So the post you were talking about on 8 today, I know what you were talking. The stat that it was going into the New Orleans game.
Yes.
There were only 2 players that Howie Roseman had his name on that was going to be difference makers in this game. It was Wentz and Ciamalo. Why is that bogus?
No,
because that's true.
No, they're talking about the thing said starters. It didn't say impact, but it said starters, if I remember correctly.
And it was
No,
Wentz.
because there was Wentz, Ciamalo. There's also Big V was starting. Avonte Maddox was starting. You're talking about draft picks, right? That Howie Roseman
against the Saints. Big V wasn't a starter. Lane played.
So Big V started. I'd have to go back, but I thought
there were
Avonte Maddox was starting too.
No,
so there was another one.
But the crux of the stat was that these guys have been starting for majority of the season. They were difference makers. Avonte Maddox has never been asked to be a difference maker. He's been on the field because he's had to be.
Okay.
Like we talked about before. He's a rookie who's playing a position he's never played before.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not difference maker. That is literally, oh, you have 2 legs? Oh, you have a helmet? Okay, you're going to be standing on the field for a majority of the time.
Okay.
So the crux of that stat, which is something I brought up on Wednesday, which was then posted on Thursday, it's factual. That's the criticism of Howie Roseman is that, sure, he has Wentz on his resume. That's great. I'll always appreciate that. That was a great trade. But if we really want to dissect a lot of his drafts, it's not perfect. We can't say Aguilar because that wasn't him.
Oh, it's not
we
perfect,
can't say Ertz because that wasn't him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I totally get it. I think
don't
the
think
way
Cox
it
wasn't him either.
No.
Was he?
No, Cox wasn't him.
Graham was Andy. You know, so I mean, we want to go backwards. Lane wasn't him. You know what I'm saying? His best guy who was not drafted, who he drafted, who was not named Carson Wentz, was Aguilar. That's his best guy.
Yeah, the way I read it, and I wasn't the only one that called them out on it. The way I read it, it sounded differently, and that's
all good. It's all good.
But I get what you're saying, and I understand the argument, like the crux, like you said, the crux of the argument. I think I was more so saying like, all right, in terms of details, it's not entirely accurate, and you can't criticize them totally because if you look at each draft specifically, the 2018 draft, you can't say anything about yet. So you had the 2016 draft where he traded everything to get Wentz, and that has to be factored in because everything after that he had 1 third-round pick and then 5th round and on. So
let's talk about 2017 then.
Okay, so 2017, and that's where I admit I just said 2 minutes ago that 2017 was the one draft where I am critical of him. I went on a huge rant. Was it last week where I was like, "That's atrocious. That's unacceptable." So 2017, totally agree with you on. I'm with you on that. And then 2018 was where like you can't assess it yet. You can't assess anything
No.
for 2018. So
No,
that's
no.
just that's what I'm saying. Like it was more so like, all right, we're starting to attack Harry Roseman, but I mean, you can't put out that stat without like breaking it down and being like, okay, well, there's more to it than what you're saying.
Well, no, I'll break it
Yeah.
down very simple. It's that 2016 was the Wentz draft, and he was handcuffed everywhere else because he traded up to get him. 2017 is atrocious, and you can argue that the 2017 draft will be the draft that puts us back as an organization. I can go right down the list. We'll talk about Sidney Jones. If that doesn't pan out, Barnett is fine because he was a part of the Super Bowl team.
Yes.
You could talk about Pumphrey, which there's 17 running backs who are great right now,
Yeah.
and Pumphrey is not even on a squad.
Uh-huh.
He's on a practice squad.
Yep.
So that's atrocious. I can go down the list.
Definitely.
18, sure, the jury's out on it just because it was 9 months ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The point of that stat and the whole argument last week was that just because Roseman attaches his name to all of these trades, remember that this draft is huge for his legacy coming up.
Yes.
Because it could
Completely
right
agree.
all of the wrongs with him having 10 picks.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I said like I said, this upcoming draft is pivotal because you have, and I know we're about to go to break, but you have so many veterans potentially leaving. You need to reinvest into young players. So this, with all these draft assets, he has to draft well.
Agreed.
Good stuff, guys. If you joined us on Instagram, Periscope, and Facebook, we appreciate it, guys. Please join us over on YouTube for the second half of the show. We'll continue to talk Eagles and Saints. We'll talk Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to that. We'll probably dive a little more into the Monday Night Football game last night.
Woo!
And we'll do our no huddle. I'm sure there may or may not be some Sixers talk on that. And we know our YouTube fans
Jimmy
especially
Buckets.
loves that Sixers talk. But we'll definitely dive into that. Ryan will drop the link in the comments. It's also at the top of the page.
Correct.
At the top of the video. But obviously our sponsors, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants, make them yours at gibsonmayer.com. Thank you to Specialized Physical Therapy. And found in Burlington, Cherry Hill, Princeton, New Jersey, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. And Scanzano Sports with the poll question, which we'll continue to talk about on the other side. We'll see you guys in a few minutes. What's up, fam? Exclusively on YouTube. Welcome back to Birds of a Feather on A2DRadio.com. Chrome, Chucks, Ryan Brodo on the ones and twos. Our show sponsors, Gibson Mayer LLC, our certified public accountants. Make them yours. GibsonMayer.com. Also, Specialized Physical Therapy. Find them in Princeton, Cherry Hill, and Burlington, New Jersey. Find them on the web, SpecializedPhysicalTherapy.com. Scanzano Sports Poll question this week. What has the more graphic scene? Irreversible, Last House on the Left, Straw Dogs, or Saints and Eagles? Honorable mentioned earlier, the Alex Smith injury, which I honestly would say the Alex Smith injury was probably the most gruesome thing.
That was gruesome.
But as far as those choices, definitely the Eagles game. Like I said earlier, I can make it through any scary movie. I couldn't make it through that game. I was done. Before the fourth quarter started, I was done. But anyway, we're on. If you made the jump from Facebook, Periscope, and Instagram, we appreciate it. If you stuck with us on YouTube, we appreciate it. I know Ryan pegged out a couple of comments that we wanted to jump into before we started talking Monday Night Football last night.
Yes, sir.
Which was an epic game, by the way.
A couple guys, and also honorable mention or shout out to a couple guys that we haven't seen on the chat in a little bit, but have been riding with us for a long time. Edgar Venzer, long-time listener.
Edgar Venzer.
First time I've seen him in the chat, so if he's still watching, welcome back. He says, I feel bad for Golden Tate. We should put and he said, this is why I like Edgar. He says, we should put Mulata at running back. See, it's growing.
What do we got to lose?
Listen, I want to see him on the field. I don't care where he's playing.
Better than Clement right now.
Yeah, listen. As far as Golden Tate goes, I'm going to be the guy, and I know Charles disagrees with me. Right now, I'm letting Nelson walk, and I'm going to see if I can re-sign Golden Tate.
It's not that I don't disagree. I would prefer that, but it's the option that they elected for, which means they wouldn't get the compensatory pick if they release.
At this point, I'm not worried about that. I don't think Nelson's going to be much more than what he is at this point. I'm rolling the dice with Golden Tate. I mean, whether he's slow to pick up the offense or it's coaching or whatever it is, Golden Tate is the consummate professional. Golden Tate can be a difference maker, and I believe, especially if you go into next year a lot more healthy with a guy like Golden Tate and Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz and whoever else you want to have be your deep threat, whether it's Mac or whoever it is, Mac Collins.
Or draft someone.
Or draft somebody. Or whoever you put at running back, who I'm sticking to it. I think they're going to re-sign Ajayi to a one-year deal. I will not budge off of that. I think he would be a huge asset. I don't know that I see Nelson being much more than he is at this point. And I think he's going to be I think he's a very good player, but I just don't
I think he'll be in the league for years.
I think that he'll be a guy that will play, whether it's with the Eagles or other teams. He'll be a guy that can make plays. He'll be a bit of a playmaker, but I don't think he's ever going to be a special guy that's going to be a focal point of an offense. Mm-hmm. Guy like Golden Tate has been for a long time on a lot of different offenses.
Yep.
I'm putting my money into Golden Tate.
It's funny because after that game on Sunday, I literally went through and did my whole. I usually don't. I save this until the Eagles stop playing.
Well, they did stop.
It's true. Well, all right. Until they officially stop playing, until they okay, it's time to play golf. But hey, it might be that time right now. I did my full plan. Like I literally did okay, if I'm Howie, if I'm Joe Douglas, this is what I'm doing this offseason. Mm-hmm. There'll be a time and place where I do that, where the season is actually over. But it's so funny. To be honest, and this will be a tease for hopefully months down the line when we actually have to talk about it, not like next week, which is looking like. There's not as many moves that need to be done as we think. But the main thing is that I agree with you, Chrome.
Yeah.
Tate over Aguilar at the moment. But that could change. Also, we have John D. Casanova says, what's up, boys?
What's up, John?
Too many injuries at this point. I would rather have a cardboard box with the top open for interceptions than what we have in the secondary. It's not a bad analysis.
Listen, brother, it's rough.
It's very rough.
It is rough.
Very rough.
We talked about it earlier. We got the backups of the backups getting hurt at this point.
It's
getting nasty.
We also have Turk Boys 20 saying, why can't Doug play call like McVay and Matt Nagy? I'm not putting the blame 100% on him, but the other coaches call better plays. And this kind of and it's not just him. I think it's the entire unit of coaching. It's the coordinator, obviously, running backs coach, obviously, it's the head coach. They're just predictable. You know what I mean? Matt Nagy, the reason why he's so successful with Trubisky, and Trubisky's your guy, and I give him credit because
it's my boy.
You would agree that a lot of it has to do with Nagy.
Sure. Yep.
It's like a McVay,
I would agree,
Jared Goff thing. But listen, that dynamic is working because it's so unpredictable, and we've gone backwards. So
agreed.
I actually highlighted that question because I wanted to tackle it a little bit. Like, it's a good it sounds such a simple question that you think there's an answer to it. There has to be a really easy answer. But if you really think about it, it's like, why doesn't the rest of the league copy what Bill Belichick does more often? And so you get to think about it and because Belichick does certain things, and I won't dive into it because there are a lot of things. If you listen, I know some people on the chat listen to it along with me, so that's why I'm mentioning it. But on the Sims and Lefko podcast, Chris Sims used to work for the Patriots after he retired, and he talks a lot about Belichick's scheme and the different things he does. But he always says it boggles his mind why other teams don't copy what Belichick does. And so you get into thinking why if certain offenses is like Kyle Shanahan's and McVay's and Nagy's, why don't more coaches copy them? That is a great question. Part of it, each coach has their own playbook, their own system that they have to install at the beginning of the year. You can't rehaul your entire playbook mid-season. That's just not realistic. But at the same time, there are plays and concepts that you should take and coaches should take. But another reason why it might not always be the case, or it might be harder to do, easier to say than do, is because certain concepts coaches just don't understand. For example, Kyle Shanahan, his offensive scheme is predicated on the zone run. He's a master at the zone run. So why doesn't it be as effective with other teams and other coaches? It's because Kyle Shanahan knows the little nuances of the zone run that make it so successful that other coaches just don't. They just don't know as well as he does. So that's why you can copy certain plays, but when you get down to the nitty-gritty, it's just that some coaches don't really know the details that are needed to make those plays successful on their own team than the other coach. You guys get what I'm saying? It's easier said than done because some coaches, they just are smart and they know what goes into making the play really good, and other coaches don't. So, but that's a great question. I read it and I was like, oh, that's interesting because we would love to see more stuff, more play action concepts from McVay's offense and our offense and other stuff. But it's possible Doug and his offensive coordinator might grow. They just don't understand the concepts that go into it. So, that's that.
I saw Rosca commenting, asking if we're going to be on this Thursday. Thanksgiving, we are not on for Lazy Booking, just an FYI, or Hockey Happy Hour. But if anybody is watching who does watch Lazy Booking, we're going to go live in the Real Talk group later tonight. After the show, I'm going to head home, and I got a special guest from the original Lazy Booking joining me tonight. So I'll mention that at the end of the show. But anyway, did you have any other ones you wanted to jump into?
No, those were the notable at the moment.
All right, so last night's game. Woo! What a fucking game.
The best regular season game I've seen.
It's been a while since I've dropped an F-bomb on the show, but that was there's no other way to put it. That was something else, man.
That was great.
Again, if you're a defensive purist, Probably not your favorite game, except for the end. The end had quite a few defensive.
They
I
had
disagree.
turnovers there.
No, see, I
They had
disagree.
great-
I think if
yeah.
you're a purist of defenses, you're
Right.
very happy because of the score. I mean, the way they turned it over and
both defenses
that led
had,
to pick sixes.
Yeah,
or
that's true.
fumble
That's
recoveries
true.
for touchdowns. I mean, what were there? 3 of those?
Yeah, there were like two
Two in the
touchdowns.
Rams'
Yeah,
favor and 1 in the Chiefs.
it was crazy. Like the defense was making
Yeah,
plays.
I mean,
too.
I've seen people on Facebook who and other things who say, well, I don't like when scores are like high-scoring games
Well,
like that
get used
because
to
of
it.
the defense. Right, but listen, it was an awesome game to watch. I mean, you talk about how many lead changes, how many in the fourth quarter alone? There was like 4 or something like that.
5, I
crazy.
believe.
5, something
Yeah.
like that. Crazy.
Insane.
Crazy. And listen, you got to see 2 of the young, up-and-coming quarterbacks in this league
Go at it.
go at it and have a chance to march. I mean, they were marching up and down the field left and right. It was crazy. That catch in the fourth quarter by Tyreek Hill.
On the sideline.
Oh,
Where,
my
with his
God.
fingertips.
I almost fell out of the fucking chair watching that.
Can we say he's elite?
I love
I'm not
him.
saying you guys were disagreeing with me, but people out there, can we finally
I've never
include
said
him
he
in
wasn't.
the elite
Why I
Why I
conversation?
draft him in the second
You
round
see
of drafts
why he's so
every year.
good. Oh my God,
Put up like 40 points for me last night. I didn't even need it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
he's improved even this year, and you're seeing just how dangerous. I think in an interview, some kind of interview, they asked. There was someone who asked Drew Brees about who the most dangerous player in the entire league is. And Brees said, hey, Coach Payton, who is the most dangerous player in the league? Payton says, Tyreek Hill. And Brees says, yes, it's Tyreek Hill.
Because he can do everything. He can
can do
return. He can
everything.
run the ball out of the backfield.
And again,
he can catch.
Unmatchable speed.
Yep.
There's no one faster than Tyreek Hill right now. So when you're faster than everyone in the league, no one's going to catch you.
Yeah.
No one's going to catch you.
Yeah. But that was something special. I mean, obviously the highest scoring game, first of all, in Monday Night Football history, 773 games. And really in the history of the NFL now.
That's crazy, yeah.
Crazy.
And it was funny because toward the end of the third quarter, when the Rams went up by 10, I was like, oh, like this could be it. And what a downer, like for it to end like this, because it's been so good. I'm like, damn, like I don't want it to end this way. But
Chiefs march
the
right
Chiefs
back.
rush, they had to stop, and then like they marched right down. They had that
2
one
touchdowns, yeah.
touchdown to Tyreek Hill. They had a defensive stop, and then they marched down the field again for a touchdown.
Let's just see. How many touchdowns do you think Tyreek Hill has? I just checked this season so far.
Oh,
Off
hold
the
on.
top of my head,
Top of my head.
Yeah.
8.
12.
14.
Oh my
What?
God! I even undercut it.
I totally. I was
Good
playing
Lord.
Prices Right and going under without going over.
But I don't blame you because
I thought it was like
I don't
10.
know. That's what a normal person would have. Around anywhere from
Yeah.
4 to 9.
He might have 20 touchdowns. Well, he will probably have 20 touchdowns
With
this year.
Mahomes,
Are you able to?
Wow.
Are you able to look up how many of them are
rushing and receiving?
rushing, receiving, or I was more so interested like
Long?
just long plays, explosive plays.
I can check. I was looking on my
Yeah,
fantasy
40,
app.
40 or more, because, dear Lord.
If I find it, I'll let you know.
Yeah, thanks. But man, like that game was I was trying to think about it all day today. Like, what are the best regular season games I've ever seen? One of the first ones that came to mind was the Miracle at the New Meadowlands,
Yeah.
Eagles Giants, and I tried to be like, okay, like let's compare, like which one do I think was better. But honestly, with the Miracle at the Meadowlands, that was only a great game in the last 8 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, when you
Other
talk
than that,
start
it
to
was
finish.
a blowout. Yeah, start to finish. This was insane.
And I didn't get to see it because I had to leave for work this morning. But I know that Greeny was talking this morning on TV, and the question was asked, was this the greatest regular season game of all time? So do you guys feel like this is the greatest regular season
Yes.
football game
That-
of all
my
time?
lifetime.
You know
I'd
that
agree.
what else it is.
Might be of all time.
You know what also makes it great is because a lot of these great games, they're games that you never expected. Like Eagles Giants, you didn't expect it to be one of the greatest games you've ever seen, but with this, there was so much hype around it. Like everyone was saying, like, "Oh, this is gonna be a great game," and oftentimes when you hype up something to be a great game, it doesn't turn out that way.
Right.
This was everything that you
No,
expected.
and you're absolutely right. This was billed as 2 heavyweights stepping in and getting ready to go to battle. And I think the line was, 63 or 64 on this game?
63.
That's
and they scored 105 points. Like, good Lord, I hope you took the over on this game.
I believe it was the third highest scoring game of all time.
I thought they said it was the highest scoring game of all time.
No, there was one from the 40s that was like 112.
Okay.
They were sitting at 105.
Maybe they said in the Super Bowl era it's the highest scoring game.
Yeah, it was like 1944, and
Okay.
it was Cleveland versus Redskins. It was something stupid like that.
Okay.
I did find something. It wasn't the touchdowns, but it's something.
Okay.
Another trivia for you.
Okay.
There's two questions. So I found how many 40-plus and 20-plus just plays he's had in 2018. How many 20-plus yard plays do you think he's had?
Oh, dear Lord, 30.
23.
22.
Oh, it's so close. I was going to say
close.
22.
You're really close. You're really close.
I never go with odd numbers. I was going to say 22.
Which it shows how big of an upgrade, or not, no disrespect to Alex Smith, but how better of a fit he is with Patrick Mahomes.
Yes,
because of all of 2017, he's already passed. He had 15 total 20-plus yard plays, 15, and he's already passed that by 7, and that's through 11 games, 12 games?
Yeah.
40-plus yard plays.
So
40-plus yard plays, yes, in 2018.
17. I might be overshooting it, but I'll just go.
Yeah,
17.
I would say you're overshooting it. I'm going to go
Anybody
with.
see my face there?
I'm going to go with 7.
6.
Man, I'm off by
You're
one
off by one again.
Damn me and my odd numbers when I never guessed them.
Isn't that crazy though?
That is nuts.
In 2016, he had 8 total 20-plus yard plays.
Okay.
And
then 2 40-plus yard plays.
It's unbelievable, man.
That's
And now he's already
unbelievable.
blown it out of the
This
water.
guy's
That's
17.
unbelievable.
Well, maybe that's like the finishing number.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah,
The pace they're going at. But no, and Jared Goff, I thought had a really good game. And
very good game.
Again, I think that the gap between him and Carson Wentz is a lot closer than people give Jared Goff credit for. And I think that Jared Goff did do what the criticism is with Carson at this point, which was able to come down and constantly bring his team back every time they went back and behind. And it's a credit to him.
I figured out how to beat him, though. I know exactly how to beat him.
Yeah.
And Eagles, if you're listening, well, it doesn't matter. The Eagles, they can't do this
No,
anyway.
please tell them how to beat them because I have to go to that massacre that's going to happen in
beat Goff
LA
or the
coming up.
Rams?
No, beat Goff.
Okay.
Well, no, if you beat Goff, you beat the Rams.
Well, no, if you beat Gurley, you beat the Rams.
Yeah, touche. And it's something the Eagles did at the
Gurley
end of
didn't have a great game
No,
last night.
0 touchdowns.
Yeah.
0 touchdowns.
53 yards, I think. I think they said he had an ankle injury.
Oh, good.
I don't even think it was more representation of him. I just think it was, okay, everything's an air attack.
That's true.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I think that game plan wise, also that was the main reason.
They all came out slinging last night. That was a gunfight last night.
You could tell right off the bat they were targeting the defensive backs, especially Orlando Scandrick. That was definitely part of the game plan.
It wasn't only a race to get as many points as you could, but I feel like their game plan on both sides was we need to figure out how to score as quick as possible because we know the opposite side are going to do the same thing. That's why it kept going boom, 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 boom. It wasn't long drives.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go on a long drive, you had to end up with 7. Because if you go on a long drive and end up with 3, it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
It's going to kill you.
Listen, and this is, to me, last night was a story about this Rams team. This team is going to – they're going to be so hard to beat for anybody, including the Saints, because – it's always going to be a shootout. They don't need to worry as much about their defensive woes because they proved last night, no matter how much you put on the board, they can put more up on you. That was crazy watching that. Every time they went down, they came right back down the field and just tacked more points on and took the lead back.
And
it was crazy.
I thought it was so premature and like overreactionary when after the Saints beat the Rams in New Orleans that everyone's like, oh, like I think even Brad Ryer was like, I think it's no question, hands down, the Saints are the best team in the NFC. It's not even close. Come on.
No, it's close. I mean, I think
it's close.
I think the Saints are the best team, but it's close.
But it's close.
Yes,
like
very
you
close.
can't. Like, you can't just discredit the Rams all of a sudden because they had one loss to the Saints. Like, it was in New Orleans. Like, the Rams are still very, very dangerous.
I think
and they still have the best defensive player in the league in in Aaron Donald, and you saw the impact he can have.
Well, I think if these two teams face off in the playoffs, it's going to come down to whoever gets the home field advantage.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, let's be honest.
I don't want to be the Rams going into New Orleans if it's a playoff game.
I was going to say, let's be honest. Why are people saying the Saints are better? It's not because of the team.
Because of home field?
Exactly.
It's a little bit because of the team, but that home field advantage is so massive.
That's what puts it over the edge. People say, it's,
yeah.
quote, not close. It's because of the home field advantage of, you can go in LA.
People should change their arguments to say which team has the best advantage of getting to the Super Bowl.
We got our boy TTP chiming in. TTP says, so lucky I wasn't home for that game.
Very lucky.
But I was home with my TV on, trusting the process Saturday night. Jimmy.
Woo, Jimmy.
Not much, just 9-0 in Wells Fargo Center. Haha.
I will add this.
We're going to talk Sixers, buddy. Don't worry about it when we get to No Huddle.
The way you beat Jared Goff, and this is his thing. Everybody has like something they do, and they'll always have their entire career. Jared Goff at the moment has zero or very little pocket awareness. So if you collapse the pocket, which obviously that happens with majority quarterbacks if you collapse it, but with him, he has the tendency to hold on to the ball a tad too late, and he keeps it exposed. That's why if you look at all of they strip him. They strip him constantly.
Chris Long did it.
Yes, and they did it to him countless times, or they were about to do it, and they did it once last night. And they did it, I think, twice, or they definitely did it once when the Eagles played him last year.
Yeah.
That's something that you have to watch what he does in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
because they're going to be scanning him for that.
Yeah, his mobility in the pocket, I'll have to. That's an interesting point. I'll probably be on the lookout for that now. How his mobility in the pocket is.
If you have two guys coming at him equal sides and somebody's behind him, there's probably an 85% chance that ball's getting stripped because he has no idea that he's back there.
TTP says, but we're talking Eagles right now, so I'm going to stop. That was an atrocity.
It was.
Yes, it was. Bro, we're getting into Sixers, though. I know you love our Sixers talk. We're going to get to that on No
We don't have to talk Eagles anymore.
So listen,
can talk about
why don't we talk Thanksgiving? The
Let's
holidays coming up.
I should have gotten a music bed ready.
Jingle bells, jingle bells.
Wait until you hear my holiday music. Just wait for that.
I'm pumped for it, man. I'm ready.
I'm very ready.
I was already busting out the NSYNC Christmas album the other day.
If you want, I can make that your intro music every week.
Let's do it.
I literally had to do that. I felt so I don't put Christmas music on usually until after Thanksgiving. The Eagles, and I'm not even kidding, I felt so shitty after that game on Monday. I was like, I'm putting on some Christmas music. It's going to make me feel better. I listened to that shit on the way to work. I almost put Disney music on. That's how depressed I was.
Yeah, I've been listening to Christmas music because Mary loves Christmas music.
I do have one in here.
And if you guys don't know, me and Chrome, no lie, we are big NSYNC and Justin Timberlake fans. No lie. Like, not even kidding.
Well, if you know me, that's pretty well known.
Yeah, in high school for the talent show, we both performed to Justin Timberlake. So
it's non-copyright. This is safe.
Okay, good. Good, I was about to say. But, yeah, I mean, for Thanksgiving, do you want to start off with Thanksgiving stuff?
Yeah, so, I mean, my family traditionally, we go to – so, first of all, I love Thanksgiving. Definitely one of my favorite holidays, if not my favorite.
It's underrated, yes.
I always say because it has the 4 Fs, family, friends, football, and food. That's all I need. It's perfect for me. I love it. And my family, I'm very fortunate with the way it is with my family now. I know, obviously, when I have my own family at some point, it'll change. But I have the luxury of my family won't let me touch the food because I'll ruin it. And they don't ever really have us clean up. They have us just literally sit. So I literally just go and eat. But it's awesome. So, like, my grandmother, God bless her, she's 93. We still go over there. We have every year of my life over in South Philly. And everybody cooks. My uncle does the turkey. I don't know about you guys, but one of my favorite things with the turkey is the skin off of it when it's a freshly
It's got to be
turkey.
crispy. It's got to be crispy. I can't
I like it when it's like greasy and gooey. Oh, it's so good.
I can't do it.
But that was always a thing growing up. Like me and my cousins, we would always be like hovering around the turkey for when it got sliced, so we'd be fighting over the pieces of the turkey skin.
It's probably the most unhealthy. It's the unhealthiest part.
Oh yeah.
But it tastes so
I
good.
don't even give a shit. Who cares? Look at me.
Judge
Do I look like I'm worried about being healthy? But no, I mean, I love Thanksgiving. I spend it with my family, and again, my 93-year-old grandmother. And at this point, we don't know how many more we're gonna have. So that's our tradition that we get to do that, and I get to hang out. And this year, I have my niece and nephew, and my sister and brother-in-law coming up from Maryland. And my niece is my little mini me. It's my godfather. She's awesome. So I'm really excited. I mean, I love Thanksgiving, and I like that it kicks off the holidays. I'm a big holiday guy. Like my dad always talks about like Christmas Day, like, you know, kids play with the toy for a little bit and then they're done with it. He said for like Christmas week, I always sat there and I played with every toy, and every toy got its attention. And like I was always loving Christmas music and the whole vibe. And now as an adult, like I don't care about gifts and stuff. Like for me, Thanksgiving kicks off my favorite time of year, where people just seem to be, for the most part, unless you're like crazy and going out on Black Friday shopping, like people seem to be in much better moods, and it's just just the lights and everything. I love the ambiance of everything this time of year.
I like the weather. I'm except for
No,
snow.
wait.
I like the cold weather.
No.
I
So
like the cold weather.
here's my deal with snow, because this is kind of where this shit kicks off.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, here we go.
I don't mind snow. I like it between now and New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Literally January 2nd, put that shit away. I'm done with it. I don't need any more of it.
Yeah, because like
Stop
February
it.
snow is the worst because it's
Yeah.
not like, oh, but it's holiday season.
Yeah,
like,
it's sort of like-
screw
No,
it.
no, it's shit.
Get rid of it.
But I don't mind it. Like I like it when it snows on the actual holidays or the days around it. You know, you talk 2 to 4 inches. I can deal with that
Fair,
shit.
yeah.
But
It's that power.
Piles
yeah.
of
we
piles
get
of snow.
3 or 4 snowfalls between now and January 1st. I'm down with it. I love it.
Oh, great
But I'll tell you right
question,
now,
TTP.
I don't give a shit about
I
that.
know. I saw it. We'll get.
But
to it
I
later.
love Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to spending the time with my family, and maybe when we're done, we'll run off some things we're thankful for. But go ahead.
So with Thanksgiving, I remember.
Oh, and my favorite thing also. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
no,
you off.
go.
One of my absolute favorite things is broccoli and cheese. My family always does the broccoli and cheese.
See, I thought I
Nice.
was the only one.
I'm a
Nice.
broccoli and cheese
Yes.
carnivore. You put that shit in front of me, I will
Yes.
eat bowl after bowl of it.
Yes.
Like it's in that bottomless pit.
Yes.
So outside of the turkey, and I like both, but I like the dark meat, a little greasier too, but I like it.
Mhm.
I am a broccoli and cheese guy all the way,
Yeah.
man.
You've kind of answered because TTP did ask favorite Thanksgiving side dish, so you did answer
Broccoli
that.
and cheese, brother.
I'll start off by answering that question. I'm just a traditional. I love mac and cheese. You give me different types of mac and cheese.
I love
I'm
it. My family
all
doesn't
about
do
it.
it, but I love mac and cheese,
I love
especially
mac and cheese.
homemade
we
mac
don't-
and
we
cheese.
don't have that either.
Oh, I know.
That's so good.
Maybe that's what I should do because I can cook.
There you
that.
go. There you go. Do it.
Yeah, I'll probably fuck it up.
So Thanksgiving, like, unfortunately, with my family, like, it's become less and less of a tradition to get together, and it's our big family thing. And I have a big family. Like, I'm Filipino. I have a huge.
Are you?
No, I'm lying. But I have a lot
he
of
was
relatives.
Irish.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I have a lot of relatives, and our big thing has always been Christmas. We have our family party on Christmas Eve, and part of it is because my grandmother who passed away last year, her birthday is on Christmas Eve, so that was always like the joint like Christmas and grandma's birthday kind of get together. So it's always been that's been the big yearly like family get together. Thanksgiving's kind of died out a little bit, become a little smaller over the years. But you know, we still make sure to spend it with family and friends, obviously. But traditionally, like in terms of tradition, I love what I remember, especially, and this is one of my earliest football memories because it's one of the first things like even when I was a little kid that got me to watch football was watching the Detroit Lions and Barry Sanders on Thanksgiving.
Oh, awesome.
So we would sit down and football would be on, and I wouldn't really know what's going on, but football would be on. And this short guy in Detroit Lions blue would always be tearing it up, and I would always be like, oh, I want to run like him. So that's one of my first football memories, and that's why Barry Sanders and Jerry Rice are they're always going to be one of my all-time favorites because they are the ones that kind of introduced me to football. And so that's like one of my favorite Thanksgiving memories. In terms of traditions, I don't have many. Like the one tradition that a bunch of friends and I have been doing for the past few years now, ever since I moved down, is flag football every mornings. And if anybody wants to come, just hit me up on social media. But we get a bunch of people together, whoever can make it, and we have a huge flag football game at the park. So that's always been a lot of fun. Like I prep for it. Like I've lost a few pounds past couple of weeks in preparation for this football game. I've been training for it. So that's awesome. And then I think one of the best football memories I've had recently was the Eagles-Cowboys game in 2014. Remember we had Mark Sanchez?
Yeah.
And for some reason we beat the Cowboys.
It's one of my
and
favorite
it sucks.
games ever.
Yeah, it sucks because we ended up losing a few weeks later and then lost the division. But that was great because that kind of like set the tone. Like I remember that night I watched it with my family. And then afterwards, we were so happy. We were like, "Let's go Black Friday shopping. Let's go out and like
I
be
don't
out
do
in
that
the world.
shit.
Let's be out in the world." To be honest, it's died down because Black Friday hours now have extended so early into Thanksgiving. Like the rush isn't as bad as it was before. But yeah, like I'm looking forward to this Thanksgiving because not only do we have like all the stuff I mentioned, but Mary and I are actually going out to Lancaster for the weekend.
Oh, cool.
Or a small little getaway because we don't get, with us saving up for the wedding, we don't have money to really go on a vacation this year. So we decided, a small getaway to Lancaster. So we're gonna spend Thanksgiving up until Sunday in Lancaster and just enjoy ourselves.
That's
so,
a great area
yeah.
out there this time.
Oh,
of year.
I love it. I've been there a couple of times when I had to go out there for work training, for job training, and it's a great area. So I'm definitely really looking forward to it.
Now, this is not an ad for this place, but interested. Have you ever been to Miller's?
No, I haven't.
Have you heard of it?
No.
Have you, Chrome?
Miller's?
It's a restaurant. It's like
Like
a buffet style.
No.
Oh, how are you living?
I'm
right
thinking Miller's
Around
like Miller's
here?
Ale
now? No,
House.
Lancaster.
Wait, like they call it
Yes,
smorgasbord,
yes,
yeah?
yes, yes.
Yes, I went there.
Okay.
I've been there. Yes.
Did you
I
get
thought
the
you were
chicken?
talking around here.
No, screw you.
I must be a drunk because I'm thinking of Miller's Ale House. I'm like,
No.
You go
It's
there
me
all
saying
day?
it, Chrome. It's me.
I know. That's why I was
Oh,
confused.
yeah, I've been to Miller's. Yes.
Yes.
It's
Chrome,
very good.
we got to get you
It's
out
very,
there.
Very good.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, they call it smorgasbord out there, not a buffet. Do you realize
Semantics.
that? Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like it's
Yeah.
the language.
They can call it whatever they want.
Because out in like
Okay.
Amish country, man, like
Yeah,
there's
it's
so
true.
much Amish.
Real quick to add to my traditions as well, real quick. We always decorate the tree the day after. I don't do the Black Friday shit. I never have.
No.
I don't care for it because I'll punch somebody in the face if they try to get in front of me.
I just wait for
like
the
I'm
videos
not
to
even
come
that
on
guy.
Twitter.
Like I'm not an aggressive guy. But if like some dude tries or whoever tries to reach in front of me and aggressively try to grab some shit next to a shelf next to me, they're getting an elbow. That's just the bottom line. But I do enjoy that I get to decorate my tree because again, it's not just the Thanksgiving, it's the kickoff of the holiday season, and I really enjoy decorating the tree. I'm like a little kid when I do it. It's that, and also I haven't done it in a while because they had gotten away from it. But I'm an alumni of Highland High School and Triton High School.
Yeah, you are.
I graduated from Highland, but I went to Triton.
You did.
Double dipping.
So they always were rivals and always played each other on Thanksgiving Day. And they had gone away from it. Were they playing Clearview or somebody
Something
for a
like that.
while?
Yeah,
I
they
forget
were,
who they were.
yeah.
Sterling, I think it was. And I went to I think the first game where Highlands football sucked for years. So when they weren't playing Triton anymore and I wasn't going there, it wasn't really a part of my tradition anymore. It didn't feel the same. But over the last 2 or 3 years, I think they started playing Triton again. They went back. Highlands got a pretty good football program.
Do they
now.
really?
Yeah, they have a pretty good football program. So this is my year this year where I'm going to return and go back and kick off my Thanksgiving by going and watching the Highland Triton game, which will be at Highland this year. And for anybody who saw my Facebook post with the confusion, the internet sucks and had wrong start times saying that the game started at 7 p.m., which
What
I'm like,
the hell?
why the hell would they pull these kids from their family? But I did find out it was just other sites. When you went to Highland site, it did have the right start time of 10 a.m.
Gotcha.
So if anybody's in the Blackwood area of New Jersey and
Where I live right down the street.
they want to hang out, I'll be at the Highland High School and Triton High School football game. Which I always loved, although it's going to be cold as balls because it's going to be like 20
Yeah,
a
don't worry
high
about
of
it.
29 degrees.
Don't worry about it.
So
Just go out and have fun.
so I'm going to check that game out and kick off my day with some football that
Nice.
I'm not like Charles irresponsible and thinking as a 30-year-old man I'm going to run out there and do shit I can't do. But
Hey, man, I feel young,
I'll watch
so I'm
the young
relaxing.
kids. I'll watch the young kids go out and do it. And I'll stuff my face while I'm doing it.
Oh man, I gotta stay active. I can't not be active.
Well, I do basketball when it's
Well, see, that's
decent
good.
weather, but I
That's
ain't doing
good.
that shit in the wintertime. It's like 18 degrees. I ain't
Oh,
worth
stop.
it.
It's not worth it.
Yo,
No.
even in 20-degree weather, if I start moving, I will be sweating in 2 seconds.
Yeah, and
I
then,
sweat
you'll get a
profusely.
cold. This is like the father and me. You sweat in that winter, you're gonna get cold.
You're going to get very sick.
You're
I'll
gonna
be
get so
sick.
sick.
I sound like my
So sick.
dad.
I will answer TTP's question. By the way, he said that his favorite Thanksgiving side dish, he says his family makes a signature hot potato salad.
Okay.
Mm.
Probably my favorite food, and I only have it once a year, which
Nice.
makes it even better.
Oh,
it's good.
that's-
See,
it's
my
a
family-
build
a lot
up.
of
It's a
hype
build
into
up.
that.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
My family only does it a couple of times a year. We don't make a hot potato salad, but my family has their own recipe for their own potato salad. That is to freaking die for.
That's awesome.
So maybe 3 or 4 times a year when we do get together for certain holidays, like 4th of July and stuff, if we ever do, we'll have it, and it's amazing.
That's
So
awesome.
to answer his question from earlier, my favorite Thanksgiving side dish. So my grandma makes an incredible stuffing with gravy.
Yeah.
But once
Ooh.
or twice a year around the holidays, we'll make an alteration of the gravy. We'll put cheese and cayenne pepper into it, where it's like a cheesy, spicy gravy. So you put that on the stuffing, which is already good. Then you put it in a little bit. You dabble in the cranberry sauce on. It's a mess, but it's justified for once a year.
You got my Shaq face.
People, if you have the gravy, you get bored. Just put a little cheese. Doesn't matter. A little mozzarella. We should have a cooking show.
Little
you understand?
mozzarella.
A little cayenne. It'll
little
go
cayenne.
wonders for you.
Little cayenne and
I
mozzarella.
can't take too much cayenne. I'm not a good spice.
Can't take
I
the
don't
heat.
deal with spice.
Oh,
very
I'm a
well.
spice guy.
Oh, I love
care.
it. I love it.
Yeah, me too.
Give me like a pinch of cayenne.
Can't
and
get
I'm-
spicy. You can't get spicy. A little hint of cayenne.
And then Andy brings something in. So he says the fried turkey, which I've never had, but I've heard of.
I've
is
never
becoming
tried
big.
it.
I've never
yeah.
had a fried
So
turkey
my
Fried- a
either.
deep fried
favorite-
turkey.
My second favorite part of Thanksgiving is the leftovers. So what I do
Yes.
for a
Of
week.
course.
So
Boom, done. You're
what
right.
I do is, and I bring back the cranberry sauce, and I get the leftover turkey, and I'll make a grilled cheese sandwich, put some turkey
There you
in the
go.
grilled cheese, do a little dabble of the cranberry sauce in the grilled cheese.
There you
I'll
go.
make 2 of those a day.
There you go.
2 a day. Keeps the doctor
Two-a-days.
away.
A different type of two-a-days.
It's the better version
The
of
better
2 a day.
version of two-a-days.
And then he says favorite dessert. He asks, "What's our favorite dessert?"
"Oh God."
See, I go so
Wow.
ham during the dinner. It's all about survival during dessert.
Oh God.
I don't know.
I'm
like a Jello guy.
I like apple pie. And because that's actually a part of my family thing too. After the dinner, they clear the table, and then everybody gets a cup of coffee, and we all sit around the table, and we all have our different types of dessert. I like apple pie, and I like carrot cake.
Those are good.
And I like cheesecake, and they'll get different variations of cheesecake. I can only eat so much of it, though. I'm not a big sweets guy. Like,
No,
literally
neither
Thanksgiving and maybe 2 or 3 other times a year are the only times I really eat sweets. I don't eat cake. I don't eat chocolate. Not that I don't like it. I love it. It's just ever since, I don't know, when I became an adult, and I guess because I make so many other irresponsible food decisions, that I decided one year that, like, hey, if I eat less of this stuff, maybe it counterbalances all the alcohol consumption and shitty food that I eat. And I just kind of never went back to
Oh,
it.
Oh, my
TTP.
gosh.
I feel like TTP should be our new food correspondent.
Let's
Says
go.
for me, warm up some sweet potato pie, throw in a little whipped cream, nothing better.
Oh my God.
TTP, I'm not a sweet potato guy.
Neither
I'm
am I,
not
but
either.
listen,
I'm
I'll
not
buy
either.
it.
It sounds
Just over the
good.
chat, I'll buy it.
Okay, so I have 2 things. So for again, like I said, I'm Filipino, so a lot of times for my family parties, we would have still a mix of Filipino dishes in there. So with dessert, we wouldn't have a lot of like just traditional American kind of desserts or Thanksgiving desserts, but they would always have like this Filipino dessert called biko, and what it is it's like this sticky rice kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you ever gone to an Asian restaurant and they have like sticky rice, that's what it is, but it's the Filipino version. They put like brown sugar and sticky rice, and that's just how I grew up. But if you're talking about just like desserts in general, to me nothing beats either a warm brownie or blondie with ice cream on top.
Blondie is so good.
My favorite dessert ever in the history of desserts I've ever tried anywhere is Applebee's maple butter blondie. I will I kill for that dessert. So you give me a good blondie with ice cream, that's good. But the top notch is Applebee's maple butter blondie.
You brought up brownies. Are you a corner or an edge person?
I like both. I can't pick between the two.
Charles, I'm fat. I like them both.
I like them both.
I'm
That's
a
how fat I
snob.
am.
I'm a snob. You know what I'm going to say.
I like the corners.
I'm a middle.
Oh.
I do.
Well, to me,
honestly.
You got corner, middle. Wait, hold on. You said middle?
Yeah.
Middle, corner, and both. That works out. There's
No,
balance.
it doesn't work out because you can't have any of my corners or outside edges. I love when it's like a little bit thicker and harder on the outside edge, and then that softness on the inside. But yeah, who we got here?
Harlem Cowboys bitching because, we talked food
don't
for
worry
5
about
seconds.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Do you know what Thursday is?
Thanksgiving,
Sorry,
buddy.
Cowboy Cockroach. You're relevant for 5 seconds,
We
damn it.
implemented some football talk into it, so
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Thank you for your timely response.
Well, he just chimed in for the last 2 minutes and is trolling. That's
Yes.
all.
Yeah, don't worry about
exactly.
it. Don't worry about him.
But pie with cran. He says, I like pie and I like cranberry sauce. That's good stuff.
There you go.
What kind of pie do you like?
Losing. Fraudulent. He's a Cowboys fan. I know.
All right.
Yeah, so we promised TTP we're going to get in a little bit. I'll tell you what. We'll go if it goes a couple of extra minutes, that's fine just cuz
That's fine,
I
yeah,
want to
yeah,
make
yeah.
sure we get that
Little
Sixers
10:05.
we'll do 10:05. We'll get our Sixers talking for TTP. It's our boy. He always jumps in and gets in it. So, all right, guys. Jimmy Butler. We kind of talked about it when they acquired him. We're 4 games in now?
4.
Right? Am I
Yes.
right? 4 games
Yes,
in
sir.
now.
4 games in.
First game, clearly they gave that game away.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, the team has been off and going. And listen, I mean, I think it's fair to say, there is an adjustment when you have their first time out, and it was pretty clear. I think he was right in his press conference in that team's not going to have a problem scoring. They're going to need to do defense. For everything that everybody asks, they have found ways to share the football and coexist.
Football?
Or basketball, I know. We're talking football. Jesus. They have found ways to share the basketball.
We might need
and
some of them
coexist.
on the football field.
Good Lord, I know.
actually.
Jimmy, are you interested?
Jimmy, it's just being secondary.
But I mean, listen, it's not even just what I've seen from him on the court, and I know we'll touch on that in a few minutes, but it's been the leadership that I see from this guy. I mean, game 1, he's over there talking to Amir Johnson and talking to some of these other guys and trying to help them kind of see things that maybe, they don't see developing on the court. And it's and the moment, and me and Ryan talked about it beforehand, kind of enthralling himself into the culture of the 76ers with that moment with Allen Iverson. After last night's game. That was something really special. He looks like he's having fun out there. And listen, I know the guy, he's got a spotty pass. We know he has a spotty pass. But I believe that he wants to win. And Ryan hit the nail on the head. When you look at what he was playing with in Minnesota, a lot of soft guys, in my opinion.
No, Cat's soft. Wiggins is soft, so I understand why. I mean, the guy is a grown man. He wants to win. He couldn't win in Chicago. He got traded to Minnesota. The guy wants to win. We need more guys like that. He's going to be aggressive to a fault because he wants to win. He's not going to take the money on its own right. There's a lot of guys in this league that just coast. He doesn't.
How much do you think he hates Markelle Fultz?
Oh, my God.
Well, Markelle Fultz isn't going to be around much longer.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be an issue.
They need to get rid of him. I'm done with Markelle. TTP, how do you feel about the Markelle Fultz thing? Let me know, buddy.
It's so sad because I feel like I've been, like a lot of guys, and justifiably so, like anybody who's jumped off the Fultz I can't even say bandwagon because there was none. Just a lot of guys have walked away from him and just given up on him very quickly, and trust me, I get it. I've been very patient with him to a fault. I wish the kid nothing but the best. I hope somehow he finds a way to get back and become some kind of an NBA player, but this is becoming a distraction at this point. And there's a point where the team just needs to understand that future is more important than past.
Yeah.
And just remove themselves from the situation.
Well, listen, when we talked about it before we went on the air, when you go out and you make a move like a Jimmy Butler, you're in win now mode, And that's not saying it's this year, in the next couple years, they have a very nice open window now where they can be one of the beasts in the East which is a very winnable conference going forward. You do not have the luxury anymore of sitting and developing a guy who clearly doesn't have it between the ears, doesn't have his skin is as thin as a piece of paper, that you don't have the time to sit back and wait on this guy anymore. At some point, he's got to show you something. And listen, when he's on the court, he's aggressive and he plays well, but I mean, you look at the free throws. It went from the double pump to the next game. He's throwing the ball back and forth to himself and throwing. I've never seen anything like it before. And we talked about how this team, this organization has protected this kid and made every excuse in the book to buy this kid time and patience with the fan base and with the critics around the league. And to pull the stunt that was pulled with the agent or with the lawyer,
or whatever you want to call him.
Whatever he is, he's both.
Yeah.
To me, is an absolute disgrace. And you're looking at this, and you could clearly see for everything this organization has done, getting him a shot specialist and making excuses for the kid, giving him mental breaks and all that bullshit, to come out and blindside your general manager that you're sitting out and you're not playing and you're not going to practice and you're not going to do anything with the team until you go to an independent specialist. To me, hey, that's the lawyer. I don't give a shit that people say, well, I think it's being blown out of proportion because his lawyer is actually his agent. Well, listen, to me, this is a scenario now where this kid, he got booed last night. So now that's getting to him. Now it's nagging to him. This is you have an issue now where this kid's going to go and I believe this lawyer is going to try to get him to where he could have something against the team that doctors didn't have his best.
Absolutely. This is where it's going.
And that's exactly what they're setting this up for. This kid needs to go somewhere else. And I don't know where it is. A team that is clearly in a major rebuild right now, to let him go and spend 2 or 3 years where he doesn't have a big spotlight around him, where he's not in the major city of Philadelphia, where, listen, if you're a mental midget, this ain't the city to come to. Well, he needs to go somewhere and then learn at his pace. But there's no patience, there's no time for it here, and there's no time for bullshit and little games that him and his agent, lawyer, whatever they're going to try to pull. He needs to go. I'm done. I'm off the Markelle Fultz bandwagon in a big way. I did the open the door, the tuck and roll out of the moving car. I'm done with it. He can go. To me, he's dead to me as far as in terms of a player on my team, not as a person. But in terms of acknowledging that this guy is any part of this team, he's dead to me. And I'm telling you, Jimmy Butler, you talk about he thinks that this guy's soft and that guy's soft. I'm sure Jimmy Butler loves Markelle Fultz.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. Like, I might not be as harsh on it as you are. I'm more so just indifferent. Like, I don't care about the Markelle Fultz situation anymore. Like, whatever happens with Fultz happens, because at this point, what I care about is that Jimmy Butler's here. And so when the whole thing with the Fultz came out this morning or this afternoon, whatever, I was just like, dude, like, who cares? Like, I don't, like, whatever he wants to do, let him do. But if he wants to contribute and be part of this team, he'll do it. If he doesn't want to, then go elsewhere. But to me, the big three right now is Simmons, Embiid, and Butler. And I love what I've seen from Butler. I think, to me, what got me the most hype about over the past 4 games was the Hornets game. Because traditionally, especially in against the Celtics last year, one of the biggest things has been closing games. We never had that closer. Like, Embiid, he's great, but we all know, like, there have been times where he's struggled closing out games.
It's Embiid and it's JJ Redick. You shut them down, you're done.
You're done. So to me, on both sides of the ball, when Butler had that block on Walker and then hit that shot, that was like...
That's the conversation me and Ryan had earlier. It's like I'm talking to you.
The shot was...
You weren't, and Charles wasn't here for that. So it's amazing because
Yeah.
he's picking the exact point that you picked.
Yeah, like, to me, that was like, oh my God, he's here. And exactly what Mark Zumoff said, he is a 76er.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, this is legit. Like, this is very legit. Like, we have a big three that can literally do it all and have their impact at different parts of the game. And really, they complete each other. Not to sound corny, but they really do complete each other. So
they're very different players.
Yes.
That all of their styles mesh the right way.
Exactly. So that's why I don't care about the Fultz situation, because to me, that is what it is. The Butler news outweighs and out-trumps anything that Fultz can do right now with this team.
So, and I told TTP get ready for this because he loves, like, TTP and I have been talking about two players that the Sixers could try and get for the last handful of months since the whole LeBron thing, the door shut on that. It was Jimmy and it was Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal is still out there, even though I think there's a better chance he goes out west, mainly to L.A. I've moved on from the development of Markelle Fultz. I've moved on from the Bradley Beals, from the LeBrons, obviously, from the Durants and the Kawhis next season. There's a man who I've never mentioned on the show or any show that I believe should be our main target going forward. If it's trade, so be it. It's going to need to be trade. You know who that man is? And he's talked about it occasionally.
Kyle Korver?
No, I'm talking big. I'm talking big time.
That was a joke.
Like
that was semi-joke.
the fourth and final piece to being a mecca of not only the Eastern Conference, but we can take the league over with this roster.
Draymond Green.
No. Nah.
Good.
No,
Good.
that's taken over.
Good.
That's like
Please,
burning
God,
from the
no.
like Seth Rollins burn it down.
Yeah.
That's literally what the Sixers would be.
KD.
Butler, Simmons, Embiid, and Kevin Love.
I don't know if I want to get into the Kevin Love thing.
What? Here's the thing, all right? Sure, he's out from time to time. We don't need him to play the entire season. If you want to talk about a guy, except for Bradley Beal, who is a perfect fit, who can do everything that we need.
Sure.
We don't need him to be a 1. We need him to be a 4.
Yeah. Fourth scoring option. I got you.
He can do
or
everything.
Even fifth
for
if you go to JJ.
Yep.
Yeah, true. I mean, good true.
This is the man who I think is realistic to trade for because he's on an island by himself. His value is down because he's injured, and the team is in flux. Go get him. Because if you do, we take over this league immediately.
I mean, I wouldn't write off the whole Beal thing.
No.
And I do think if they're blowing it up in Washington like they're talking, that could be a spot for Markelle Fultz to go and develop. I mean, it's a major city, but it's not as major of a city as like a Philadelphia or New York or Chicago type or an LA type of an area. I think it's a reasonable area that he can go and develop a little bit. We kind of talked about some moves that I would like to see them do. They need to shore up that second unit. It's very clear. And you talk about they build these big leads up in the first quarter and into the beginning of the second quarter. As soon as that first unit comes out, they blow all these leads. It's that second unit. That first game where Butler was back and they went with the small lineup where Chandler
Wilson Chandler?
Yeah, Wilson Chandler. Jeez. Wilson Chandler was playing center. And not just playing center for 2 or 3 minutes to give Embiid a spell. It was like 6 or 7 minutes on the game clock. That's an issue. That's when they were just absolutely ran off the floor for that period of time. They need to figure something out at the 4 spot particularly off the bench. I don't mind Chandler being in the starting roster at the 4 spot, even if you go out and get another 4, unless you get a star player. But I've softened my hard no on Carmelo. I think that Carmelo, if you can bring him in here and say, dude, 15 to 20 minutes a night, it's a low risk, high reward, league minimum, not going to cost you a play or anything like that. Really, you could just do it for money to bring him in because he's making the league minimum. He gives you a scoring option on the second unit. You brought up J.R. Smith. I don't know how I feel about that. I wouldn't want both if he's an option there to bring here, but he's being stubborn and he won't take a buyout.
Well, let me ask you this.
He's insistent on being traded because he doesn't, it's something to do with the finances.
Could he be attached to a Kevin Love deal? And I'm just throwing this out there.
I don't know if they have the assets financially to make that happen though.
The Sixers, you mean?
Yeah.
So, and that could be true.
I'd have to look at what their contracts are.
If you throw Zaire, Fultz, Muscala, because we talked about Fultz and Muscala, that's
right.
$14 million there.
Matt Geiger 2.0.
You can throw Wilson Chandler in there, which I think Wilson might get traded. I know he seems like I think he's very expendable. I think he was like an emergency scenario.
Yeah. Listen, I think he's good right now for a depth piece or for what you need him to be now. But if you can make a move and improve big time, he's a guy who's absolutely expendable.
So if it's
he's not in the long-term plan.
If it's Zaire, Fultz, Muscala, and let's just say Wilson Chandler in a pick, and you get back J.R. Smith and Kevin Love,
you got a lot of ground to cover on your, as far as filling in your bench though. I would almost rather do, if you could, a Corver and a Kevin Love than have a J.R. Smith.
That's fine. Well, yeah, I mean, I just bring up J.R. Smith because it looks like you're going to have to trade him to get rid of him if you're Cleveland.
True.
And really, the only thing you're really losing on your bench, because you're not losing Zaire or Fultz, because right now both of them are not playing.
Right.
Muscala he's a guy, and Wilson Chandler's on a minutes restriction.
Yeah.
So really, none of them. Muscala's the most important piece right now because he's the only one playing.
Yeah.
For the most part. And Muscala's there's 50 Mike Muscalas that you can buy. You can get Vince Carter, who's going to get bought out in a month.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's something. There's a lot of moving pieces there, but I think if you move in that direction as an organization, you become a mecca as soon as you sign on the dotted line.
I'm looking at this team right now, and it's tough to say, to come off of my whole hard stance thing, but I think that Carmelo in some ways makes some sense for this team.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got to check his ego at the door, and I do believe if he comes into a team like this, I don't know that he's really been on a team that has a real legitimate chance to win.
No. Not in years.
I think that this could change his tune a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see where they go. You know, I'm interested to see the buyout guys who are going to be bought out because that's going to open up a lot of opportunities. And at that point, we can bring some guys in on low salaries in order to fill in the bench. So, anything else for the cause before we jump off?
No, I think that's fine. Yeah.
Guys, good stuff today. Thank you to our sponsors, Gibson Mara LLC, Scanzano Sports for doing the poll question. I love it. I love it. And obviously Specialized Physical Therapy. Guys, Eagles-Giants this week. Enjoy the game. Please enjoy the time with your family on Thanksgiving. And if you go out for Black Friday shopping, try not to get arrested punching anybody in the face. Just stay home and do it on the internet. That's your best bet. I promise.
Punch someone on the internet.
Yeah. Go home and verbally punch somebody and be a keyboard warrior. Yes. But listen, we love you guys. We appreciate the fam. We're thankful for you guys. We're thankful for being here with A2D and enjoying this time and talking to our man over here, Ryan Brodo. The bro. One more time. Mr. I nicknamed myself over here. It's been a while since I said it.
It's been a while.
But anyway, we appreciate you guys. Enjoy your holiday, and we'll see you guys next week. Shining in.